welcome to episode number 80 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast. We are recording on August the 9th, 2020. My name's Eric. I'm the host of the show based in Southern Ontario. I'm a hunter, target shooter, ham radio operator, and computer geek. As a first responder, I witnessed an over-reliance on emergency services during major events, and I started a small preparedness company to help people get prepared for at least 72 hours, if not longer.
Hi, my name is Ian. I live on Vancouver Island. I'm an outdoor enthusiast, sport shooter, and my farm's designated handyman.
I'm Alan. I'm also a ham radio operator, safety trainer, first responder, security expert, and overall safety nerd.
I'm Gavin. I'm an instructor with Ragnarok Tactical, a volunteer search and rescue person, CCFR field officer, and a regular panelist on the OG CPP.
They hate us because they ain't us. If you want to help support the show and keep the Canadian Prepper Podcast on the air, buy a Canadian Prepper Podcast t-shirt at www.rapidsurvival.com. All proceeds help keep the lights on, the backup generator fueled, and Eric's dad jokes coming.
And we all know that's the best part, right?
Oh, yeah, that's what everybody listens for.
That's why I come back.
So if you're enjoying the show, please take a few minutes and like us on Facebook and submit a review on iTunes. Also, we want your feedback, good or bad, or if there's just a topic you want us to cover. You can email us at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca.
Is everybody ready for the terrible dad joke?
I look forward to this all week.
We've got some content we found in the woods for you this episode.
Boo.
Wow. We're going to start off with some preparedness-related news articles, and we'll let you know what we did for our preparedness since the last episode, and then we'll get into the main topic of joining your local search and rescue group.
Although local seems to be a relative term. I kind of went a little nuts on the news tonight because there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in the world, and we can't forget that our COVID is not the only thing that's happening. So in case you've been living under, in case you have been living under a rock, there was a large explosion in Beirut. The crater is approximately 43 kilometers deep. Yep. And after that, protests have turned into riots demanding the resignation of some of the more senior elected, I'll use that term loosely, officials in Lebanon, and a snap election is being called. Closer to home, a protest in Montreal over mandatory mask regulations draws thousands of people, most of them not wearing masks. I put a little op-ed in the show notes. I'm not going to read it out here for the most part, but I think it's safe to say that we're all kind of sick and tired of the indoctrination, and we're no longer pretending this is about safety. Manitoba, there was a tornado, killed 2 people. Severe weather remains a high risk to everyone, so keep your eye on the radar and listen to your weather channels. And then probably an article more appropriate to the other CPP, but 2 Canadians in China have been sentenced to death for drug trafficking. I'm going to guess that based on their names, they are Chinese-born but gained Canadian citizenship. Either way, kids don't do drugs. Grown-ups don't kill other people.
Yeah. Kind of looks like we kind of gone the other way with that, like from the drug thing. We're trying to legalize heroin and meth, and they're kind of still on the other end of the spectrum on that one.
It does not serve the benefit of the party to have people thinking freely.
No, that's true. Or expanding their mind, clearly.
Well, for myself, I've got a couple articles here. So first off, from August the 6th, Bell and Telus customers report network outages in Ontario and Quebec, and people lost their minds. Internet was down for a couple of hours. And if you're watching Facebook or Twitter or anything else after it came back up, people were very much so unimpressed. So kind of helps back up why you should have an alternate way of communications or an alternate form. It's not just about Facebook and Instagram and Twitter.
Pre-download those cat videos so you've got something to watch.
Yeah, just download the entire internet. What could go wrong?
We used to be addicted to meth. Now we're addicted to pictures.
Well, the screeching of teenage girls would probably be heard like 200 miles away if the internet cuts out. I mean, I had an incident in the house this morning when one of the iPods went, the earpods, whatever those things are called, the earpod thingies went missing. Well, it's just like the end of the world. So I can imagine the internet, that'd be even worse.
Yeah. Just download all 80 episodes of our podcast. You'll be good for quite a while. And you'll fall asleep fast, so that's good. Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you'll have endless hours of entertainment.
And all those dad jokes.
Yes, they're great. Yeah. And another article here about Hazelton receiving funding for emergency preparedness by the province. So that's out of BC. And it looks like they're starting to spread some money around and helping some various cities and towns with their emergency preparedness. So it's good to see.
Yeah, they got they're kind of in the danger zone for forest fires as well. Like they're kind of in the middle of nowhere, and it's probably good because they one road in, one road out type of thing. You know, they got a couple of major issues to deal with on a seasonal basis, so it's probably not a bad idea to get some money flowing that way.
Yeah, it was just good to see something besides money going towards COVID. Not that that's not needed, but it's good to see they're throwing it elsewhere as well. So,
fair enough.
Hey, let's move to what we've done lately for preps. So, for myself, been on the road for work. Boring, but and whoever wrote "boo" in the show notes
may or may not have been me. So myself did some recurrent training at work, so that kind of took me away for a couple days. I had a few days of rain for the first time in must be 2 months, so we were happy to do that and took advantage of the rainy days just to do some reloading. Well, I was out doing my daily hike with the Strava app. You know, I suffered a dog bite, pretty bad one actually. 6 stitches, which affected my trigger finger. Oh, horrible stuff. And so I ended up having to have like Lego hands in one hand. I kind of like, unless I had like an oversized field phone, I couldn't do much with it. And so I took the time to reevaluate and reorg the first aid kit in the home and in the truck. And took care of that because I noticed when I was trying to patch myself up when I came home bleeding like a stuck pig, I couldn't wrap it up as fast as I wanted. So I took care of that. Went to A Company Military Surplus. They had a clear out sale. They're closing September 1st, so everything's 50% off. So that's good.
That's nice.
Yeah. I also, a friend of mine that I sold some roosters to a couple weeks ago, or some chickens to, dropped off a free 2,000 watt generator. And it's sitting just a meter to my left here. We got torn apart, figure out what parts it needs, and I think I've got all the parts. So I'm going to try and put it together after the show, see if it works, and then maybe give it a paint job, and there you go, generator. Just like that.
Nice.
Free's good.
Yeah. Stocked up on some sundries, mostly animal feed, basically in preparation for the second wave. Assuming that people get stupid and want to shut everything down again, I want to make sure I have lots of animal feed. Planted some mint to get my my mojitos going, and a couple other various plants. I think I sent you guys some pictures of my.
Have you put the mint in its own garden so that it doesn't overgrow everything else, though?
I did.
It's still going to overgrow everything else.
Yeah,
I planted a couple of kinds of mint this year, and I was expecting them both to grow exponentially, and neither of them spread much. I put them in their own containers off to the side, and
would you like some of my mints? Because it is all over
actually, I actually would. I was expecting to get more out of it, and anyways, yeah.
This is actually the 5th time we've planted mint in the acreage, and we have yet to have it take off anywhere. But I've tried some Indian mint and spearmint this time, and to see what would take off, because our soil just isn't right for it, and nor is the sun or the amount of rain we get, because during the rainy season it's too cold, and then during the dry season it's just too dang hot, and we don't get rain for months on end, right? So it doesn't really take off here. Anyway, but wild berries are coming into season, so far we've been picking huckleberries, blackberries, and some thimbles, just to gather up for some extra food and jam and everything else. So that's pretty much it for me.
Awesome. Today we harvested hundreds upon hundreds of tomatoes, and actually ended up canning about 3 liters of tomato sauce from our garden. So that was our big triumph. We also harvested a big eggplant, and we've got enough cucumbers that we're going to do a batch of pickles this coming week. Finally got my truck. I'm really excited about that. So my next step is a bug out trailer. So that's our go back to, what was that, 3 or 4 episodes ago, and we can go back and learn about what we're going to do for that and start the plan. Also had some damage from the storm a couple of weeks back that prevented me from being on the show, and so now I'm getting a new roof, which is turning into a pretty major home renovation along with the new garage that I'm building. So it's gonna be an exciting few months.
Welcome to the home renovation club.
Oh man, it's a 110-year-old property, or 110-year-old house, and the garage, or the existing garage, is like 1950 something, and it would be cheaper to just tear it all down and start again, but then we wouldn't have a place to live. So,
all right. Shall we move into the main topic?
Yeah. So I guess we're all ask ourselves, why would we want to join the search and rescue thing from a preparedness perspective? Well, as we know, there's certain types of personality types out there. There's people that lead and people that follow, and people that try and protect other people, also known as the sheepdogs versus the sheep. I like to think they're all quality people that are into preparedness and look out for their community. So I'd say it's a good opportunity to meet like-minded people.
I'd say by and large that's an accurate assessment.
Yeah, I'd agree with that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree. I mean, there's definitely a couple of weirdos that seem to come along with some of these groups. But I mean, yeah, by and large, like everybody's there for the right reasons for the most part, and yeah, is always looking to help out. So it's a good thing.
Well, name me a group that doesn't have the odd token weirdo, whether it be a gun club meeting or a. There's always that guy, right?
There's got to be that guy. If that guy's not there, the whole group cohesiveness just falls apart.
Yeah, well, that's totally reasonable. I mean, you'll find the outliers in every group, but for the most part, yeah, they're all good folks.
Did you say there's some people that follow around search and rescue or fire people that kind of show up to the scene and kind of want to, LARP a bit?
Well, in the fire service, we call them fire buffs. I don't know if search and rescue has the same terminology.
Yeah, so we have a few members of our group that are also fire buffs, and some of them even go around in old like decommissioned police cars and things like that. And like, yeah, I don't get it. It's not my thing, but like I said, like it's their hobby. That's fun. They still come out and help people, so they're still good people. Just a little odd at times, at least to me. But I'm sure I'm equally as odd, just for different reasons.
Well, I would say nobody's quirk-free on this panel, I think.
There are also people who sit along train tracks and catalog the passing of trains. So weird takes many forms.
It does.
Yeah. On the search and rescue end of it, though, there's not so much like the equivalent in terms of a fire buff, but there are definitely some news people that kind of tag along in case there's some not so fun calls that you're on, and more of a recovery type of thing. So I haven't had to deal with that directly, but my group certainly has when we've gone and assisted with some things further east from where we are. There's the local person has a police scanner, and anytime there's a call, we'll be on scene, and there's always a couple people kind of designated to block this person and stop them from interfering with the search and getting photos and all that. And the group has actually had to put protocols in place because this news person took photos of group members like shaking hands and kind of standing around having a smoke and laughing about something while the rest of the team was going on a recovery, which I mean, when you've done so many of them, it's kind of commonplace, and like, you got to laugh about it sometimes, or at least about something else to help get you through
has to come out.
Yeah, the uncomfortableness of what you're going on, and and regardless of what you're doing, I mean, everybody else's life has to carry on, and people don't always understand that, and when you kind of catch a photograph of that out of context, then people get mad. So we've had to nobody's allowed their cell phone except for the the search leaders, and then no shaking hands, no having cigarettes, no this, no that, no anything. There's a designated spot for all of that, and it's cordoned off so that no one can see it.
It's all about optics.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Actually, it was the first time I ever heard such a comment. But when I was getting the stitches at the clinic the other day, I was texting you guys actually, sitting there chatting back and forth. And the doctor comes in to do the stitches, and she's like, "You're not going to record me, are you? I don't give you permission to record me." I'm like, "I wasn't planning to, but do people actually do that?" She was like, "Yeah, they
she
try."
Watches the show.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, okay, whatever." And I wasn't my plan, but anyway. I had to kind of giggle more than anything else, but
it's the way society is now, right? Everybody wants to record everybody
on the Instagrams and everything else. So service to the community. I mean, if you're heading down that direction for a career path, as is police, fire, EMS, or whatever, I think it's a good entry level kind of position / job to kind of dip your toe into the water on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say it's a way to know exactly how you're going to react in an emergency situation without dedicating yourself to a career in it first.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have many members that are working towards being, a police or firefighter or something like that, or are active in that sort of career field and kind of got their start doing the volunteer stuff and, have kept it up. So yeah,
there are a lot of volunteers from the area where I was involved with search and rescue that are now career guys. There are firefighters, there are police officers. Actually, one just became a deputy chief of a local police service, and he's also the chief of one of the deputy chiefs of one of the local fire departments, the volunteer fire departments, and he taught a course a few months ago when I was in school, and it was one of those we knew each other way back when, and the memory doesn't fade. So it was kind of good to see him again, and I remember when he was a constable, and now he's a deputy chief.
That's quite cool.
I mean, it certainly is a small world when you start getting into sort of some more niche careers and volunteer groups like that. I mean, the one downside I would say though is that you get a lot of people, at least where I am, that say they want to volunteer and will kind of go through the motions and join and maybe kind of come to one or two events and then never show up. And then, we'll get a call for a reference to say like, hey, is this person part of your group? And you're like, they were. And like, we've got a whole computer system that tracks attendance and all that. So like, we can say they were, but like they only showed up to, 8 hours worth of events back in, 2015. So take that for what it's worth.
Yep.
Yeah. Posers.
Yeah. And then we've also unfortunately lost a few amazing members to full-time employment in some sort of, first responder field. So it kind of sucks when that happens, that they cut their teeth doing the volunteer stuff and get those volunteer hours that gets them the job, but then they have no time for the volunteer stuff and you lose them. But
it's never good when the experience walks out.
Yeah, but at least they've gone into something where their experience will be utilized, and it's not like they just kind of got burned out or whatnot. But yeah,
true.
Well, it's not like if somebody asks them how do you become a policeman or fire chief or whatever, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to mention how they started in something like this. Yeah. So that'll be a feedback loop for you guys to get new volunteers too.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
From the selfish perspective, I'm actually kind of curious what kind of courses and skills you can glean out of the course, like by volunteering. Like, they're just not going to send you in blind into the bush looking for people. So, what kind of stuff do they promote?
I mean, for my group, all of our members are given standard first aid and stop the bleed. We have our own in-house instructors for both of those. Myself being one of the stop the bleed ones and working towards standard first aid, but then the coronas happened, so that's all on pause. But that's currently what we provide to our members for free, and that's mandatory that everybody has those two things. But there are also some opportunities. So we've partnered with a lot of other local groups, and they also have their own in-house instructors for various things like ground search and rescue. EMR was another one. So some of the guys got to go take their EMR certification classes and all that for a very reduced price.
What does EMR stand for?
Emergency medical responder. It's basically like the highest. It's basically you're a paramedic, but without being a paramedic.
Oh, cool. Okay.
But yeah, so like that's pretty cool that they got to go do that at a much reduced rate.
Yeah, that's some awesome training, and if it can be subsidized, even better.
Yeah, so yeah, it might not always be free, but we get access to a lot of stuff, or even just have the opportunity where if you were just a random person off the street, you wouldn't be given it, even if you still have to pay full pop for it. But we were supposed to all go get our swiftwater rescue and stuff like that, or at least like the first level of that this year, because we do the float your fanny down the Ganny events. Which is a hilarious event. But the Port Hope Fire Department was supposed to get us all on that. And unfortunately, again, the corona's got in the way. And yeah.
Pesky corona is messing everything up.
Yeah.
So any work on like navigation or how to like do a grid search or like intercept, using the radios or anything else?
Yeah. I mean, my group is maybe a little bit lacking on the comms department and what proper radio procedure is, but we're working on that. But yeah, like we do several training exercises throughout the year that encompass standard first aid stuff, ground search and rescue, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the sister kind of groups we partner with all do the same, and we have a relationship with them where, like, if we throw a training event, everyone else is welcome to attend it as well, and vice versa. So yeah, we get a lot of that kind of land nav, search and rescue, grid, and the procedures of how to do that properly, and all of your spacing and all that. And we've actually even got a guy that just joined our group that got his advanced drone navigation and all of that license or whatnot, and actually has a drone for search and rescue that's got a thermal camera and a night vision camera, and he's working on instructing us to get our basic licenses and go from there if we want to. So yeah, there's definitely all kinds of cool opportunities that you can get from joining your local group.
It also puts you in a position to work really closely with other people who are in that same community. It builds a fantastic network of, as Ian mentioned, like-minded people, but also of people who may be in a position to help you down the road. So people who are if you're aiming for law enforcement, it puts you in contact with people who are also involved in law enforcement, which could work out in favor if you don't suck.
That's kind of what I was going to come around to, is like the idea of resume padding per se. Like, I mean, because I think if you apply to any sort of community service job, like police or whatever, they're going to ask you what kind of community service you've provided, or in a volunteer work, and that's going to be a guaranteed plus right there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you've already got something kind of similar built in, and then if you've managed to acquire any of these skill sets through doing this, it's like they come built into you already. It says, oh yeah, no, I've already got my standard first aid, my stop the bleed, my swift water rescue, my this, my that, my everything else. So like those are valuable skills to people that are in situations that can go sideways very quickly, right? Like,
yeah.
Well, especially for the younger types that need some direction. They all want to do certain jobs, but they don't know how to do it, and it's a good way in. I think also teamwork and leadership opportunities, like to work as a team, and also maybe one day, if you've been in long enough, they'll put you in charge of like a team of searchers or whatever, and you can practice your leadership skills that way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, our group has epaulets that we designate, ranks on based on your medical training, because that's more of the stuff that we deal with. But one of our sister organizations does a lot more of the ground search and rescue, and they have crew leaders and stuff like that. So their epaulet ranks are based on who's allowed to lead a team in search and rescue, and who's supposed to be, the guy actually doing the searching and rescuing, and then who's in charge of the overall event and stuff like that. So yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff.
That's good. Yeah, that gets you kind of used to a hierarchy of I can't know everything, but all of us together can work towards a common goal.
Absolutely.
Which helps out.
Yeah, we got a comment from Infamous E there. It says, I did St. John Ambulance Volunteer Brigade duty years ago. The unit I was with ended up getting specialized training, which is vehicle extractions, swift water, restricted spaces, and much more, all for free.
I was also a St. John Ambulance volunteer for, 20 some odd years, and very very much the same experience. Put in a lot of time, but got like an absolute ton out of it. Extrication, we did high angle more than swift water, just because those are the people that we had available to train for us. But I mean, we had spent lots of time rappelling off the building and learning how to go run the Stokes basket and get it picked up, and all kinds of other groovy things. So it was a hugely valuable experience. And again, the contacts I made there, the people that I met there, 20 years later, it's all coming full circle. And I'm new to the fire service, but I don't get treated like a newbie by the people that remember me from back then.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because I was talking to the local lady that runs the search and rescue organization here, and she was saying, a lot of high angle stuff. Obviously, with all the ravines and stuff around here, it's kind of one of those necessary things where they're trying to pull somebody up, but it's been fallen down, broken leg, or whatever. some interesting training to be had for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, it's definitely a small world, and once you get into it, I mean, I met Alan through doing some stuff on this podcast, but having conversations with him, we know a few people in common that are all part of this community. That's how small it is,
Yeah, that just it goes back to how small the world is in general, and then how small the specialized communities are beyond that. And yeah, we've got a lot of mutual friends that more than I would have expected.
Yeah, but that's part of the whole networking thing, right? And if you want to go into that as a career, this person knows that person, and this person runs this thing and all that. And it's if you do plan a career in this, not only is it good to just give back because it's good to give back, it's also beneficial to you in getting ahead in your career, because it's not always what you know, it's who you know.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. And more importantly, who knows you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's pretty much it for me.
Another thought too, we're talking all this angle and rappelling and all this training, but this would be a motivation as well to stay in shape and keep those skills up to date, right? You can't rappel and do all the angle rescues and all that kind of stuff without keeping up some level of physical fitness. So
absolutely, yeah. And I mean, just it's one thing to go and you do your standard first aid refresher, every couple of years, which is probably enough for most things. But, having a few events throughout the year where either you actually legit have to use something, or even just the scenarios that we put out, it's practice, right? Because some things you just forget, even if it's a little thing that, it's not life or death, but it's if I remember to flick a bee sting away instead of doing something else, whatever, I'm not going to kill someone if I do it wrong. But just little things like that, you keep up the skill and keep up the training, and it means you're that much better at it.
Yep.
I could just imagine for the motivation aspect, some guy sitting on the couch, the call goes off because Timmy's stuck in the well or whatever, and you're like, I'm too tired, man. I just got to chill and play video games today.
Yeah.
That's not going to work.
Another bag of chips open and let Timmy swim on his own.
Yeah.
Well, so I mean, right towards the first part of the whole Corona lockdown, where I wasn't working at the time because we'd shut down. I was so bored. And we got a call over on the radio at night that there was a kid that went missing. And I'm just frantically grabbing my stuff, and I'm like, oh, finally, something to go and do just to get out of the house, and be useful. I mean, Unfortunately, before I even managed to get all my stuff together, we got another call over the radio that they'd already located the kid and everything was fine. So it all worked out nicely in the end, but I was definitely excited to be able to get out and do something.
And as much as it's not a good thing when you get called into service, there is definitely a feeling of accomplishment and of satisfaction when you can actually go be part of the solution.
100%.
Yeah,
and that's not isolated, of course, to search and rescue. That's it's a pretty broad spectrum, but it's a way that you can achieve that feeling without dedicating your entire career to it.
Yeah,
absolutely. Another point here, it's a good way to learn what not to do in an emergency situation. Right? So you're getting all that training and you're getting all that information, and you get to practice it, and you learn what is going to work and what's not going to work.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of touched on it earlier there too. There's kind of a stress inoculation thing, right? And if you, if you find out that you consistently lose your mind every time there's a stressful situation, maybe it's not for you to carry on, but maybe it is. Maybe you're an adrenaline junkie or something, right? And it works out great.
But I mean, even if you are the kind of person that stresses out when you encounter things, the more you encounter them, hopefully the less you get stressed out. So over time, you'll get better at it, or you'll find other ways to, maybe you're really good at comms, and you can, as long as you don't see the blood, you could be the guy on the radio in the command trailer that tells everyone where to go. Does all the interning on the computer for you, right?
That's right.
Everybody finds their strength and they all fit into the team accordingly.
Exactly.
Preparation leads to victory. The more you prepare, the easier it is to succeed.
Yeah.
Got it.
It was actually kind of funny when I walked in the door the other day with that bite and I was bleeding all over the place. I just told the wife, I said, "Don't look." Put my hand behind my back. I was like, "Just don't look. I'll take care of this." And went into the bathroom, and the one daughter goes in there and she helps me wrap it up and everything else. And I was like, "You can come in now." And that she was able to come in there. But she was able to drive no problem under stress and everything else. But it was actually kind of funny. They've each got their strengths.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
that's the fun part about a group, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody fits in. Everybody finds their strength.
When my son was really, really young, this is by the way, in your first aid kit, and probably not in your first aid kit, but in your freezer, make sure you always have blue popsicles. Mm-hmm. So when your lips and tongue turn blue, it's usually an indication that you are not getting adequate oxygenation to your blood. Especially with kids, if they turn blue, they get attention really fast. When my son was really young, I managed to close his finger in a door and actually remove most of the end of it. He and I both happened to be wearing white shirts. He was about 2 years old, and he was just kind of flailing his hand around screaming. So he and I both got pretty well covered in blood. Because I'm calm in an emergency, I bandaged him up, drove him to the hospital, carried him in because he was 2, and I was feeling a little bit guilty about taking off the end of my son's finger. But he was quiet. His lips and tongue were blue, and he and I were both covered in blood. I have never seen medical personnel move so quickly in my life. They thought that he was dying, just because there was blood and screaming kids are healthy kids, right? This is a long established fact. As long as kids are making noise, we know they're breathing okay. Yep. But he wasn't making any noise, and so they figured that he was circling the drain, but in reality, he was just calm because I was calm. And so I can thoroughly pin that experience back on years and years of training to be calm when somebody's bleeding. And so that was, it got us through the waiting room really quick, if nothing else. But blue popsicles are the lesson I took away from that. Really,
that's like the urgent care life hack.
Yeah, I took him straight because we have a children's hospital in town. So any of the urgent care centers, any of the other hospitals, they will just deflect straight to children's hospital, and they're like, we'll stabilize him here, and then we'll take him by ambulance. So you might as well just drive him straight there if he's ambulatory. But yeah, so I took him straight. So it was like walking through the emergency room, and just like the look on the nurse's face as I kind of went through the door, and they realized that he was blue and there was a lot of blood, and we were like, it was accentuated by the white shirts, and he wasn't making any noise. And I was carrying him, and he was, he was a big enough kid that he should be walking, and all of those things combined.
Well, if you get a blue freezy, the kid's happy because he's got a freezy, and then you get through the hospital quicker too, right?
It's win-win. It is. There's no downside to this, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't worry about tricking the medical staff. It's fine.
Yeah, they figured it out pretty quick, but
it's too late then.
Yeah,
it's too late. we're already through the checkpoint at this point.
Yeah,
so
you're already fast tracked. It's fine.
But yeah, so the swing this topic background into the preparedness world, it's going to expose you to those stressful situations. It's going to expose you to a lot of new training and experiences that you might not necessarily be exposed to. And it's going to help ground you and get you used to being under stress and experience stressful scenarios and stressful situations. And it's going to introduce you to a whole network of people that you may not necessarily have met otherwise. So it's a great opportunity for people to get involved in, and it can certainly help with your preparedness mindset and get you exposed to a lot of things that you might not be exposed to normally.
Yeah, you will be interacting with the community a lot if you get into anything like this, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because people suck, but also you better get used to it because we're not all hermits, and we have to deal with them at some point. So better get good at it.
Well, people suck no matter what, so you might as well get good at dealing with it. There's really no third option here.
Yeah. At least in these kinds of groups, you're going to meet more people that don't suck versus people that do.
Yeah,
which is good.
And chicks dig the uniform, right? Let's be honest.
There it is. Man, we got 33 minutes in, and that didn't come up now. It's impressive.
And I guess, if you're a lady that wants to get into it, guys dig the uniform too.
I have another story about that, but it's an off-the-air story.
And then we touched on the whole insider connections as well. You can't have enough connections, right? And the more connections you have, the better connected you are. Oh, another terrible joke.
All right, so I think we threw some links in there as well. Basically the SARVAC. What was that one?
Search and Rescue Association of Canada, from the looks of it.
Yeah, so they're the ones that govern basically how search and rescue works across the country, and then each province has its own governing body as well that does stuff. There's some cool programs that are run through some of those. One of those is the Adventure Smart program, which is all about teaching kids how to kind of get through the woods if they get lost and stuff like that, and what to do, all that. And SARVAC is the governing body of that for Canada, and then hands out stipends to the groups that teach some of that curriculum and stuff like that. So it's government funded, which is kind of neat. Something useful for once.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of spending on like random stuff overseas. Yeah, wrong podcast. Okay, so I also threw in some links. I did like 5 minutes worth of Googling just to see what kind of like intake people are interested in. And the first 4 I came up with was one just down the road from me that I know of, and they're always recruiting because, well, the revolving door around here age-wise with a lot of the residents. But Mississauga and Halifax, of course, I looked up the local one near Gavin. Same thing, hiring, Halifax hiring. In Calgary, although they're hiring, they finish their intake for the year because I guess they do all their training in the summer. And so they kind of finish off their recruitment for this year, do all their training, and then they'll start recruiting again in the fall. So it seems they're always looking for people no matter where you look. So it's not like it's a barrier to entry with the people.
And the interesting thing is, because it's all sort of set provincially, some provinces, it's actually a paid job. So I believe out at BC, it's paid. There's still some volunteer organizations, but they actually have paid search and rescue positions, I believe. Ontario, officially, the OPP is designated as the people that do search and rescue, and then anyone else is a volunteer, and they decide whether they want to work with you or not. But yeah, some provinces are paid, most are volunteer.
Well, it's kind of like you out here. The firefighting service is a volunteer firefighting service, but they're all paid. So
most volunteer firefighters, the term volunteer is a bit of a misnomer. They're usually what's deemed paid on call, so they're only paid for the time that they're actually responding or training. But they are rather than just living at the hall, they do another job. But most services in Canada are like that. There are a few there are a bunch in the U.S. that are like completely volunteer, no pay at all.
Yeah. Has somebody told them that volunteer means something different what they think it means?
Well, the challenge becomes getting getting the general population on board with like, well, it's not really a part-time job. There are no set hours, and it's paid on call is kind of a weird thing to explain. So we just kept the term volunteer, and it made it easier.
Yeah, it works. Easier to explain.
Yeah, it just saves a lot of questions.
Yeah, so long story short, I think if you just Google your local search and rescue organization, like your name of your city and search and rescue, you probably find something close to you. And if you want to join them, I'm sure they'll have you. So
yeah, pretty much. It's usually not a very stringent recruiting process. You applied, great, we'll take you.
Yeah, let's do this. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, like if I was here more often, I'd probably be doing the same. I just here enough to justify it because call will go out and I'll be like, sorry, off island, like not much I can do. So. I don't want to be that guy that shows up once every 2 years.
One cool thing,
the Facebook update guy.
Yeah, if you get 200 volunteer hours for search and rescue in a year, you get a tax break.
Yep.
Really?
Firefighters the same way. Yep.
Yeah.
So like big tax break, percentage, small tax break?
It's small, but it's, if you're going to do it, and you're going to put some hours in, you may as well put 200 hours in.
Yeah. No, why not? When you think about it, it's just your money that they're not taking from you now, so that's good.
Yeah.
They'll take it elsewhere, but
they'll still take it.
Yeah.
That's the other CPP.
Yeah, and you'll probably end up spending more because it's a volunteer organization than you'll get back for your 200 hours of volunteer work.
True,
but
you'll have some cool gear though. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's nice when
the search packs are like just jammed full of really awesome stuff.
Yeah, it's nice when like your volunteer work and your hobbies all kind of like mixed together, so you only have to buy it once.
Yep. That's a good point. Well, with that, should we move into the podcast challenge?
Sounds like a plan. So in the absence of joining a search and rescue group, take some time to learn proper map and GPS use. So basically, offload their workload, figure out another way to ensure you don't get lost. So whether you want to use GPS apps, maybe just carry on a whistle, some flare guns, a compass, anything to make the search and rescue group's life easier. That would be fantastic.
Best thing you can do to be found, by the way, is stop moving.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's really hard to hit a moving target.
Yeah.
Sure
So
is.
when we do the Adventure Smart program for kids, and adults can do this too, we tell them to stop and hug a tree
That works.
and be loud, be seen.
God, there's too many people around here that took that way too literally.
Yeah.
Freaking tree huggers.
All right, let's move into the upcoming events. No more tree hugging.
Yeah, that is not an upcoming event.
No. Alan?
Sorry, I was on mute. Upcoming events. Nothing's happening. The world is still shut down, and life is not going to happen for a while. TACCOM is coming up in April, but that's a long ways off. If you would like to buy tickets this far in advance, please use the link through our show notes, and that will help us out as well as make it easier for the TACCOM people to justify why they're doing the things that they're doing if they've got tickets pre-sold.
Fair enough. You can attend a Mapleseed event. They have started up now, even despite the COVID. So at mapleseedrifleman.com, you can look it up. I actually managed to sneak in on a wait list. I will be attending the Mapleseed event in Campbell River on the 23rd of August.
Nice.
Now that I've said that, I better get my rifleman patch or else I'm going to look like an a-hole. So.
Well, practice.
That's not what makes you look like an a-hole, Ian.
Sorry. It's everything else, I know.
I knew one of us was going
He'll
to
be completely insufferable once he does get it, though.
Yeah, it's like be wearing it on the hat.
Get it tattooed on. Yeah.
That's right.
All right, so the August the 12th, Melissa Norris from Pioneering Today is going to be running a free home canning webinar. So that's a sign of the times. Everybody's going webinar now. So there's a webinar going on. There will be a show or a link in the show notes if you're interested to register for that.
Cool.
Yeah. So we're getting some events starting back up. So it's good.
Slowly but surely.
Yeah. Let's move to some shout outs.
I didn't put it in the show notes, but I do want to shout out a couple of the guys. When I wrote my ham test, what was that, 3 weeks ago? There were a couple of guys there. Riley is one of them, and they listen to the show. So if you're out there tonight, that's awesome. Appreciate the support, and hope to hear you on the air at some point.
Nice. So we've got some new Patreons. So just a quick shout out to Terry for becoming a $10 a month Patreon. Appreciate that. We've got Richard at $2 a month and John at another $5 a month. So appreciate you guys signing up for that. It certainly helps pay the bills and keep the show on the air. So much appreciated.
No, it's really generous for sure.
We do appreciate that.
As for myself, just a quick shout out to the listeners. If anyone actually does hydroponic growing, like not aquaponics, but actual hydroponics with the pipes and the plants and everything else indoors, I'm actually kind of curious to talk to them. Maybe see if we can get them on the show. So
I'm sure
please
there's a few of them out your way.
There's probably a few out in BC, but nobody will admit it. So, but yeah, no, for sure. We're looking for any listeners. If they want to just give us a call, drop us a line, that'd be great, and we'll see if we can pick your brain at the very least. Shout out to listener Cam for the free generator. And that is awesome. He's probably listening tonight as well. And a sad farewell to A Company Military Surplus for the great business and service. They will be missed for sure. Just a quick reminder, they're open until September 1st, 50% off of everything in the store. And they got some pretty cool gear there for sure. Located at 2240 Alberni Highway, Coombs, BC, which is like next to that famous Goats on a Roof tourist trap. So for sure, go and support them. They're going into retirement. So it'd be nice to help a couple of veterans sail into a cash-rich environment for their retirement.
Good for them. Glad they're retiring.
Yeah.
I hope to be there someday before I'm 70 myself.
Yep. All right, let's move into email and iTunes reviews.
All right. I think actually I put in this one from William. The best prepping podcast I found on Spotify. Good practical information, minimal tinfoil hat talk. Sorry about that. And rather enjoyable to listen to during work. Only downside is some audio glitches, but I guess I never really know if it's the podcast shitty internet connection while they're recording or my Bluetooth earbuds dropping the signal.
Let's go with the Bluetooth for right now.
Sure.
Proven otherwise.
He's listing in Nevada, USA. So thanks, William.
I appreciate
So which one of us paid him to do that? Because
I think that was actually organic, that one.
well, thank you very much.
How many other preparedness podcasts are on Spotify? I mean,
Maybe
like
none?
15 anyways. There's a lot of them.
oh, well, there you go. It's an honest, organic compliment then.
I like it.
They happen every now and again.
Yeah. And a positive one at that.
A positive, that's even better.
Yeah.
We did get another email from Edmondo. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I apologize for the butcher if I'm not. According to the media now, the protests were 100% peaceful. All the rioting, looting, violence, and burning buildings we saw was just a conspiracy, and our eyes were playing tricks on us. I don't know if there's more to that got cut off.
Nope, that was all we got.
That was all we got.
I think they're talking about BLM protests, which I kind of giggle about.
Or is he talking about Hong Kong maybe?
Well,
Well, there's a bunch of internet memes out there about the BLM protests when they're burning down buildings. Everything was fine according to a lot of these reporters.
Okay.
But
well,
green screen.
There's a lot to unpack there, and the reality is that we're never going to know the whole truth about any violent situation. I think what we're getting to, though, is a place where there's enough raw footage that we can put together kind of a reasonable facsimile of the main points of the truth, and I think that it will come out that 100 that nothing is ever 100% peaceful or 100% violent. I think that's probably a good place to leave that.
Yeah, that works. So we've got an email from Terry. It says 5 stars from Orlando, Florida. I don't use iTunes, so I can't review you there. Thank you for the information. It keeps me company while I work on my own preps. After living through Hurricane Charlie in 2004 and 9 days without power in the height of the Florida summer, so it feels like temperature was about 104 degrees Fahrenheit or 40 degrees Celsius. I've prepped ever since. Keep up the great work. So thanks, Terry. Appreciate that.
That's awesome, Terry. And yeah, hurricanes suck. Hurricanes and humidity suck even more. Keep up the good fight down there.
And we've got another email, and it starts out, greeting you bunch of pricks. And I just started laughing from there.
Excellent.
So it says, this email has been a long time coming. Started enjoying the podcast back in January, February of 2019. You look all wrong. What I mean by that is I did not want to watch any YouTube recordings until I had caught up. Obviously, my listening schedule wasn't regular, as I would have caught up a long time ago. So today I finally got there, and I watched the Power Outage episode on YouTube after 78 episodes. You're a little bit more like family, and I had formulated images of how you look like in my mind. I can relate with that. You do that with dispatchers when you're working emergency services. I was very disappointed when I watched the clip. All kidding aside, I really expected Ian, Hughes, and Tyler to look like Eric. Okay. Eric looked like Tyler. And I kind of think Alan probably has a similar look as Ian's, but the tattoo is getting in the way.
The tattoo's in the way because I don't have quality enough internet to show my face at the same time. Ian and I have been in the same place at the same time, and
It's true.
been
I
about
was there.
2.5 Ians inside of me.
Yeah, I felt like an Oompa Loompa. So it's,
Hey, it kind of look like an Oompa Loompa, so it works out well.
that's right.
Jeez, so add that to your visual.
Or not. Yeah.
or not. I'd give you a 5-star review, but I see a lesser known app called Podcast Addict, and it doesn't do star ratings like on Apple. Congratulations, and thank you for producing a quality show that applies to all levels of preparedness. I reside in the Barrie area. I'm not a gun owner yet. I got to convince my wife, but I certainly support you and agree with all the rights to bear arms. Having said that, due to my inexperience with them,
real quick, Eric.
Sure. Yep.
It is a whole lot better to beg forgiveness than ask permission in most cases. Just going to throw that out there.
Oh, boy.
Completely unrelated. Yeah. Completely unrelated.
Yes, completely unrelated to that. So due to my experience with them, the gun-specific shows are the only few times that my mind wandered off a bit while listening. That and your epic episode on IFACs. I have recommended the show to a friend. I rarely finish an episode without having learned something new, big or small. You all contribute wonderfully from different strengths. I really appreciate the geographical representation with Ian on the West Coast, Hughes on the East, Colin, Eric, and Alan in Ontario, and Tyler for an honest, non-overbearing American perspective. Yeah.
We keep him in check pretty well.
There's not one eagle or flag or anything going off in the background like this. It's crazy with Tyler. I don't know.
We added it all out. Kudos for keeping a mostly politically neutral presentation, although it's no secret we are mostly all conservative types of varying degrees. If I want to rant about leftist ideologies, I just have to listen to the other CPP podcast, which, if it weren't for you, I would not know of its existence. So thank you for that, too. I like how our two podcasts always tend to overlap.
Yeah. Both in the panel and in the content.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Strange bedfellows or something.
Yeah. Like minds.
So here we go. The only thing you guys suck at is conspiracy theories, or maybe that's all you were willing to admit to way back in episode 14, kind of like OPSEC for conspiracy theories. I forgive you. Okay. Fair enough.
Look, we could go on about that for hours, but honestly,
you have to do another.
We'd have to do another sitting. Well, we'd have to be sitting all in the same room and absolutely piss drunk, and then it would be really entertaining. I promise.
Man,
and there's also the problem with keeping the audience mainstream, growing the audience, and you don't want to. If somebody disagrees with you because of your belief in one item, pro or negative, you might lose an entire listener for who knows how long. So it's just best to keep to the how-to aspect more than anything else.
True. Maybe we'll do a Patreon episode on conspiracy theories.
But we have to pick one we all believe in, or like
True.
we personally believe in.
It's way better if we just all disagree.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So carries on with, I would love for you to, if possible, revisit and expand on the scenario of a severe EMP, man-made or natural, outside of nuclear war, or a monstrously deadly pandemic. It's the shit at the fan scenario, thankfully unlikely. It's going to DEFCON 1 in a matter of seconds, society being traveled back in time to the year 1800 in a flash. It would require everything you have taught in your episodes without the possibility of referencing your archives, since electricity and or the power to make it would potentially be unavailable.
Step one is print all the show notes.
Yeah.
Well,
that's definitely step one.
People can't take knowledge from you, so that's the one thing that prep you always have with you. So keep the knowledge, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
So it continues on. I was starting to wonder around episode 40 if you were going to run out of topics, but you keep on attacking. Bravo. Eric, you've come a long way since the humble 9-minute episode on ham radios. Oh, yes, I remember that one. I thought it was a long one compared to the first episode I did. Consequently, I offer you guys the following fun podcast challenge. Make the greatest hits episode for your 100th outside of a 2 or 3 minute collage of Eric's bad dad jokes. Assembling the rest of the episode might not be easy, but I believe you're up to the task. You have 20 episodes to prepare if you choose to accept. We're getting challenges now.
I don't think we have a choice but to accept this challenge.
I don't think we have a choice, yeah.
I think this is the first time we've ever been called out publicly for this. I think we have to go hard on this now.
I know what animal I'm bringing onto that episode then.
Is it a rooster?
Yes, it is. But speaking of which, I forgot to give it a little shout out. So the star of the poultry episode, Ginger, she died yesterday. So my little Mrs. Bigglesworth chicken, she unfortunately passed away. She'd with us for 6 years, believe it or not.
I was going to ask if it was by your hand because you needed something to eat for dinner, or
no. She passed naturally. She went through menopause a couple of years ago, but as far as like a PR bird and getting people into being interested in chickens, like she was a superstar, right? So,
and was she delicious with 11 herbs and spices?
No, she was down to nothing. You could literally pick her up and eat. I bet she had to be less than half a pound. She just lost all of her body mass. So we knew it was coming. So anyway,
I'll finish off the letter here. It says, I'll be buying a t-shirt in the near future and be visiting rapidsurvival.com next time I require gear. So appreciate that. Watching you live doesn't fit into my schedule, so I'll keep on listening to the podcast. Keep up the great work. Great work, you guys. Many thanks. And it's signed off Maverick321.
Awesome.
I think that might be the second longest email we've ever received.
I think so.
I'm pretty sure the longest one was the one that I sent just before my first episode on here.
Yep. I think you're right. Yep.
Maverick, if you want to go shooting sometime, drop me a line. I'm not that far away. I'll gladly take you out.
And I would extend that exact same invitation. I'm certainly not that far away either.
And strangely enough, I used to live in Barrie for 13 years. So, yeah.
I'm driving through Barrie next week.
Small world.
It's the center of the universe, apparently.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, I will bring episode number 80. We've got 20 episodes to go. Challenge is on of the Canadian Prepper Podcast to an end. You can find the Prepper Podcast on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, or of course, your favorite podcast app. Please help us out. Submit a review.
And when I'm not on mute, we do record these shows live on Facebook and YouTube. If you would like an early peek at the shows, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Canadian Prepper Podcast. Click the notifications tab. That gives you an alert when we're going live. You can contact me directly on Instagram at PPSWO or Alan with 1L at prepperpodcast.ca.
So you can find me on the gram as well, Urbix_GTA or RagnarokTactical.ca. If you use the code Gavin10, you'll get a discount on some stuff.
Ooh, cool. You can reach Ian directly by emailing me at theislandretreat@gmail.com. You can also find myself and Gavin on Canadian Patriot Podcast on iTunes and YouTube. There you can find us discussing why government waste in society makes both of us want to wander off into the woods.
Well done.
Yeah.
All right. Please check out Rapid Survival at rapidsurvival.com. You can get me there on the live chat while you're buying some prepper gear. You can also email me at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca. So thanks for joining us this evening. Until next time, be prepared, stay safe,
and keep learning.